Tonight, I would like to tell you a story about falling. I come from what some people might call a broken home. My dad moved out when I was 5 years old, and I grew up in two separate households with two entirely different worldviews. I knew my parents as mom and dad, not as husband and wife, or even harder to imagine, as lovers. But growing up, I would always wonder, did my parents ever love each other? This summer, I went home, and I found the answer, or many answers in this box. I found my parents' love letters. Tonight, I would like to share with you a few of these letters that I believe show how my parents fell in love, how they fought to stay in love, and ultimately how they fell out of love. But first, allow me to time travel back to 1983 and introduce my parents. Jean, my mom, is 28 years old. She's a licensed psychologist and was born to be a mom. She was raised in a Catholic family, the fourth in a line of 7, and from a pretty early age learned that keeping her head down was much safer than making waves. Her dad raised her with the motto, "Animals feel, people think," and so she learned to trust her head over her heart. Above all else, my mom wants to start a family of her own. Van, my dad, is 27 years old. He is living in Montana and pursuing his master's degree in classics. His favorite pastime includes philosophizing over donuts with his best friend Tom. Now, his mom grew up in France during World War II, and she was often known to have said to her children, "You hurt me, I hurt you." Consequently, she never learned how to love or to teach my dad what unconditional love felt like. So my dad, on his own, learns that tackling emotional situations with his head is more profitable. He'll eventually become a lawyer. Above all else, he wants to replace the family he never had. Their story starts in October of 1983, when my mom's brother Tom sends word home to Minnesota that one of his 4 single sisters should come and meet his best friend Van. You could call it a blind date, but I like to think of it as a cattle call or maybe an arranged marriage. My mom is the first to respond to the call, and this is where the letters begin. In October, it's October 13th of 1983, my mom writes, "Dear Van, thank you for being an important part of a wonderful vacation. Thank you for helping me feel lovable and attractive. I enjoyed sharing your idealism and integrity, your laughter and playfulness. I hope you can manage to stop here on your way to Atlanta. You are welcome for as long as you like. With a hug and a kiss, Jean." 2 days later, my dad responds with a letter of his own. "Hail, Citizen Jean! What a great visit! My silly sense of time is again incapable of accurately reporting it. Objectively, I know it began 2 weeks ago and ended 1 week ago. But subjectively, the echoes and implications already give it the feeling of timelessness. I would like to spend several days with you in St. Paul. To say I thoroughly enjoyed the visit would be to advance a vile understatement. Your ally, Van." The letters multiply from here, and by November, they're exchanging their first I love yous. Come January, just a few months later, in 1984, my dad moves from Montana to Minnesota to live with my mom. In a Valentine's Day card, my mom reflects on the move. "Van, though beginning to live with you was harder than I expected, I have not regretted the move. Sometimes I get so scared and anxious that I don't know how I feel, and other times my feelings for you speak clearly and strongly. I need some time. We need some time, but it's time I'm happy sharing with you. Much love, Jean." Just a few months later, September, my mom remembers her dad's advice. Animals feel, people think, and decides to trust her head, marrying my dad in September of 1984. About a year later, the first signs of trouble emerge with a postcard. My mom writes, "Van, I'm so sorry for all the mistakes I made with us. I don't think either of us was intentionally unkind. Maybe we have just been careless with what we have. I believed early on that what we could have was something very solid and deep. We still can. My dad, in an anniversary card to my mom, responds, Jean, 1 year ago we celebrated our wedding, rejoicing in the hope that ours would be a marriage in which we'd enjoy a richer life, both as partners in a joint enterprise and as individuals. I realize that many adjustments remain to be made, but I do think of them as adjustments, not reconstructions, and continue to believe that ours is a solid and promising marriage. This theme of adjustments starts to crop up in all of the letters. In a birthday card to my dad the next year, Dear Van, you do keep getting more and more wonderful. You have worked hard this year to develop your less logical, rational side, and it has clearly enriched my and our life. I admire and respect your ability to look at yourself and to change. In a birthday card to my mom in September, Dear Jean, I sure like the person you have become as the years have passed. Not that I wasn't charmed by the original model. You have the same principled approach to living, but also a new gentleness to go with it. I respect and love you very much, even if you are a little doggone stubborn at times. And it occurs to me, these aren't adjustments. Okay, if my parents' marriage is a house, then we are talking about internal gutting, not repainting the trim, reconstructions. In 1987, all of this talk about adjustments falls by the wayside when they talk about starting a family. My dad writes, Jean, it's good to read about the joy a baby brings. We probably won't feel that much differently, will we? In 1988, my brother Justin is born, and he finds out for himself. Dear Jean, our marriage seems to be surviving parenthood. In fact, our marriage seems to be enriched by our lifelong joint project of raising Justin. In an anniversary card, my mom writes, Dear Van, I can't imagine life without you or a problem so big that we can't come through it together. I love the family we are creating, and I love you and I together as the cornerstones of this family. Whatever happens with us in other areas of our lives, our family has the love to keep us going. In 1990, I enter the picture, and not too long after I begin to walk, my parents start talking about baby number 3. My mom has always wanted a big family, and at this point, my dad is realizing that he really doesn't. At some point, baby number 3 ceases to be an actual baby and comes to symbolize all of the differences, all the adjustments that they'd neglected long ago. In a birthday card to my dad, 1993, my mom writes, Van, though we are probably in one of the most difficult stretches we've known in years, for we have not really been in a spot where our goals and dreams diverge so, we will move through this to a better place. No matter what, I continue to love you, to trust you, to respect you, to believe in us. We will prevail. On my mom's birthday, my dad writes, Jean, it seems that we are at the beginning of another difficult period. I hope it does not engulf your birthday. I trust that, given who we are, we will struggle against each other fairly during this process and come out the other end intact. I am sorry for the pain I have caused you. In the bottom of this note, he includes a message from Justin, my brother who's 5. It says, I think you are a good person, Mom. Sometimes you are mad, but you always love us. Justin. And from me, a 3-year-old. I think you are a big person, Mom. The tone of the letters begins to shift in 1994 on Valentine's Day. Dear Jean, isn't it ironic how things have turned out? I, whose marital sin has been to consistently turn my energy outwards to friends and family and insufficiently inwards to you, have inadvertently alienated many of these people and left myself with you, a necessary condition for our marriage to grow and deepen. On this Valentine's Day, I offer you the will to begin rebuilding our damaged marriage. Love, Van. My mom responds on their anniversary. Dear Van, happy 10th anniversary. I am sad that our struggles mar this occasion a bit. Maybe this day is also a good day to make a new commitment to each other. A commitment that says we will be gentler with each other. A commitment that says we look for common ground. One which says we try to believe the best in each other and not focus on being right and wrong. one which speaks of individual experience and allows for the other's difference, one which acknowledges and respects each other's feelings, one which sees the differences between us as more enriching than threatening. I'm willing to make that commitment, knowing I will make mistakes along the way, but will keep this as my goal. I love you, Jean. And then, in 1995, it's as though our house has been rebuilt. On my dad's birthday, dear Van, thank you for all of your efforts, for your willingness to change, for becoming more and more of a partner to me. I like what I see and am also slowly falling in love with you again. On Valentine's Day, my dad writes my mom a note. 10 things which I love about you, Jean. It's 1995. Sweetie, I feel so lucky to be with you, especially as close as we came to the precipice last year. Let us continue to do the hard work required to deepen our love. Much love, Van. This is the last letter that I have of my parents. And now, history as I know it begins. That August 1995, my dad moves out, and 2 years later, they finalize their divorce. After reading all of these letters, I wish I could tell you that my parents had a love story. But a love story implies passion and romance and feeling. When I look at my parents, I see two people who did a lot of thinking. I see two people who reasoned their way into being together and skipped the part about actually getting to know each other. But for many years, I viewed the divorce as a curse. You know, it was something that separated me from my friends, that forced me into the middle, always having to choose sides, and that branded me in some way more likely to get divorced in the future. What I take from these letters is hope. Through the letters, I see things more clearly. I see my parents not only as parents, but characters in a wider tragedy where divorce was the last thing that they wanted. When they realized that they had grown beyond each other, rather than continuing to fight, or even worse, to settle, they decided to move forward and provide a better model for Justin and for me. So tonight, I would like to thank my parents for sharing all of these letters with me, and for teaching me that not all falls are failures. So Mom and Dad, thank you for taking the fall. Thank you.